Hey all, before we get started, just want to announce that my next yokai-themed D&D 5e homebrew race, the Oni, just dropped. Though I should specify that in this book there isn't one, but 5 culturally researched, folklore-inspired Japanese Oni to enjoy in Dungeons & Dragons. So check out the link in the description or grab it for yourself over at dmsguild.com. Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. You know, it's what, our fourth video on Demon Slayer thus far?
Fourth, technically. Though, let's be fair here, there's enough cultural analysis material in Kimetsu no Yaiba to keep plenty more going for weeks, if not months at this point.
I mean, it's nuts. The one thing I've noticed when it comes to this series is that despite the really unique and creative designs that all the different protags and villains have, there's some incredibly subtle but very substantial inspirations and references behind the design of each one. Because of that, jeez, I still feel like we're behind trying to cover everything. I mean, we completely skipped over the Mugen Train arc, and Season 2 of the anime is already done.
Well, it's not for lack of trying. Remember, Demon Slayer is under Shueisha, and when it comes to YouTube content on anime, yeah, it's been a literal minefield for content creators, and it's not exactly like we enjoy walking around trying not to get our legs blown off. So, going forward, we're gonna have to use still images this time around, and strictly for analysis purposes. We've already had a lot of our videos get blocked by anime companies, and we don't want any more trouble.
But that being said, I really do want to talk about the Oni of the most recent arc, because, honest to goodness, this might be the only chance I ever get to talk about one particular Tsukumogami yokai. But the Entertainment District arc of Kimetsu no Yaiba houses not one, but 2 different key demons, and I know there are plenty of folks out there that would be very upset if I didn't cover both of them, despite, you know, already knowing what one of them is.
Okay, well, stop dancing in circles around the whole thing and just go for it.
Alright, for those of you who have never heard of it before, Kimetsu no Yaiba, aka Demon Slayers, is a manga series so popular it's been claimed to have outsold the entire US comic industry. Real or fake, that's one heck of a legacy. So if you haven't seen it or read it yet, please go do so, it'll make this video even more mind-blowing. But at present time of the show, protags Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Ninosuke, and the season's highlighted Hashira support character, Tengen Uzui, have made their way into the entertainment district of Yoshiwara to find Tengen's ninja wives.
Those are not
Easy. Get them next time with which ninja. Rumors spread that there was an Oni causing disappearances and general unrest in Yoshiwara, so Tengen sent his 3 ninja wives to gather intel. But it turns out that the 3 were found out by the first Oni introduced, Daki, a demon in the guise of an oidan. Basically a, courtesan consort for hire? Except oidan were like top of the top, cream of the crop in the courtesan world. Yeah, historically speaking, Yoshiwara was the red light district in Edo where parades of oidan could be seen slowly walking the streets, showing off their lavishness. So, alright, this plot point absolutely checks out historically. But she's not an Oni in the traditional ogre sense. In fact, everything about her revolves around obi, basically kimono belts. She uses them to move, she uses them to attack with, and she can even create sentient helper Obi Oni to do her bidding. And I don't mean just uses Obi, she is straight up an Obi Oni. But more on that later, because right after that confrontation was wrapping up, we're introduced, out of nowhere, to Daki's brother, Gyutaro, an absolutely neurotic Oni demon who compulsively scratches himself so hard that he leaves wounds. And you might think that might be a problem for the guy, but Gyutaro can regenerate wounds instantaneously without a thought. Combine that with his absolutely inhuman speed, manipulation of weaponized blood, and his skill with his twin sickles, he's absolutely more than a threat for our 4 protags. Now, Daki might seem like a bit of a wild card when it comes to her yokai origins, but I bet even you casual viewers of our content can easily determine what Gyutaro is theoretically themed after when it comes to the world of Bakemono. Little G, if you would.
On it.
Yo, To, Sha, Kai,
Jin, Ich, Zai, Zen, Kyukyu no Ritsuryo! Yeah, you probably saw this one coming. The Kameitachi, the sickle weasel yokai of the northern Hida mountain range who have become such a nuisance that they made their way into the British Medical Journal in 1911. No, really. Now, we've talked at length about Kameitachi several times before, so I'll just say these little buggers are best known for riding whirlwinds, cutting up people's bodies leaving scars, and are supremely and strangely adverse to calendars. Though they have variances all over the country, they are known as evil kami through and through. Now you might be rightfully asking, how in the world does this malnourished looking freak show have any resemblance to bladed blur noodles? Aside from the similar sickle motif, that is. Well folks, that's exactly why we want to point this guy out. Because unlike a lot of other Oni and Kimetsu no Yaiba, Gyotaro's yokai inspiration comes from not how he looks, but what he does. See, one of the most common interpretations of Kame-tachi comes from the Hida province, where it's believed that it's not one, but 3 different weasels that cause these seemingly random scarring on people who travel through the mountain range. First, flying out at Mach speed, one Kame-tachi knocks their target down, the next one comes in and slashes up their victim, and then the third comes in with a sort of miracle ointment that immediately seals the wound, preventing any blood loss and creates a scar. So, high speed, fast healing, manipulation of blood, and quick use of sickles. Isn't that exactly what Gyutaro does? No, seriously, one of the first things that we learn about this guy is just how inhumanly fast he is. So fast that he gives Hashira Tengen Uzui a run for his money. We then see that despite any sort of injury he receives, self-inflicted or otherwise, he immediately seals his wounds. In fact, the only way to do permanent damage to him is if he's injected with Westria poison, which even then he still heals back remarkably fast, faster than any other Oni we've seen so far. He also has complete control over blood. Though he typically weaponizes it, he still has full control. And finally, he's an absolute whiz kid when it comes to the use of sickles as weapons, allowing himself to utilize his own flesh into them, as if they were a part of his body. Like Kame-tachi. Yeah, I know this one might be a stretch, but like we said, thus far, every single Oni antagonist in this series has some relation back to one yokai or another. And looking at Gyutaro, all I see is a reference that goes back to the old Hida way of interpreting Kame-tachi. 3 aspects of speed, sickle striking, and instantaneous miracle-like healing. 3 things that define Gyutaro's abilities.
But now that leaves us with Daki, and though she's just as complex and interesting character-wise as the other sad story Oni that we've come across in the series, design-wise she really is only about 2 things, being an oiran and obi. Now, there are a handful of yokai within Japan's long history that are specifically associated with the red light districts of the country. There's the Takaona, who appears on the top floor of windows of brothels. There's the Ozato, a personification of corrupt Zato performers playing at venues in the red light districts. And there's the Kerakera Onna, a gigantic woman that openly mocks and terrorizes those who utilize the red light services. None of these have any relation to Obi, but that doesn't mean there isn't an Obi yokai. Let me introduce you, everyone, to the Jatai. Ever heard of it? Probably not, and with good reason. When I was trying to research anything that might be related to Daki, this conspicuous little Tsukumogami showed up, but there was so little in the way of information. Mostly all I could find on the surface level was that the Jatai was a thing yokai of someone's obi belt that essentially transformed into a snake monster and strangled people in their sleep. And there's the whole idea that the Jatai's name is a word association with Jashin, a word that means both snake body and a wicked heart. And finally, there's an old Ehime belief that if you sleep with your obi next to your pillow, you'll dream of snakes. I mean, okay. Ill-content with my findings, I decided to go multilinguistic and see if I could find anything with more Japanese sources. And while I never did find an obi oni that hung out in red light districts, I believe I stumbled upon the singular yokai inspiration that built up Daki in Demon Slayer. In Toriyama Sekien's Konjaku Hyaki Shui, or Supplement to the 100 Demons of the Past and Present, Sekien's depiction of the Jatai came with a rather lengthy descriptor for the yokai. It does echo the same belief of dreaming of snakes with an obi by the bed, but it specifically uses the phrase of a jealous woman who sleeps. Now, I hate to be presumptuous here, but based on the understandings that I have when it comes to, quote, jealous women in Japanese Edo period entertainment, jealousy can mean a heck of a lot of things. Every story that I've read about Hanya or female Oni has had a, quote, jealous female antagonist. But jealousy in a lot of these cases were basically the idea that women in these stories wanted more than they had and were angry because of it. And that's incredibly broad. Like, it could mean anything from jealousy of a woman whose lover took on another and cheated on her, jealous that a family member was killed and the attacker got away, or jealous that the woman's life had treated her very unfairly and it should have been better. Putting a pin on that idea, I kept going, following breadcrumbs to another Japanese book, the Shokoku Hyaku Monogatari. Within this collection of ghost stories, there was the tale of Tosa no Kuni nite onna no shi usin hebi ni narishi koto, or transforming into a female snake in the province of Tosa. Long, very complicated story short, this tale was about a, quote, jealous wife who transformed into a snake and was chased after by her husband, who eventually slew her. Apparently, according to this and other research that I found, snakes were a metaphor of a woman's jealousy, hate, and overall twisted heart. So now we have a female connection with not only snakes, which Jatai emulate as Tsukumogami yokai, but also the connection to a female's transformation into snakes. But that's not all, because apparently Jatai only attack men. And when you look back at Daki's secret identity, that of the most powerful and most beautiful courtesan in the area, finding plenty of men to strangulate wouldn't exactly be hard. But that's only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the connections between Daki and the Jatai. If there was to be anything said about the life of Gyutaro and Daki before they became Oni, it's that life always beat them down, always took from them. In Gyutaro's case, he was a twisted-looking child that everyone recoiled from, a child whose own mother tried to kill him multiple times. Daki, on the other hand, though she was blessed with beauty born in Yoshiwara, she was, of course, subjected to the district's occupation that it and all of its beautiful girls were known for. When she turned 13, she was sent off to be a courtesan and service male customers, a position that she obviously didn't want as she was burned to death for stabbing a samurai customer in the eye with a hairpin. In his family flashback, Gyutaro is always talking about how unfair life was for him and his sister, and how much he wished that his sister could have just had a better life. So one could say, these are feelings of jealousy. Not just for Gyutaro, but also for Daki. While it definitely took quite a few steps to get there, I really do think that this is the reason why Daki's yokai inspiration is that of a Jatai. Not only do the obi that Daki weaponizes from her body her own flesh and blood, not only does she have the ability to divide her strength to create semi-sentient Oni obi that are the spitting image of the Jatai, and not only would working in a brothel as a top oilon be a great way to isolate and attack male prey, but it's the method in which Jatai are created that really seals the deal here. Sekien himself said, the obi of a jealous woman can turn into a snake, a Jatai. So why not have the jealous woman take on the properties of the yokai that they're so vehemently attached to? Honestly, I think that's what happened to Daki, and I love this series so much more because of it. I love the fact that the series creator Koyoharu Gotoge really does seem to pull deep in yokai and oni lore to really make fascinating characters. But what do you all think? Are Daki and Gyutaro Jatai and Kamitachi respectively? Let me know in the comments below, and while you do, if you're looking to add some culturally researched Oni folklore into your D&D game, my new homebrew race of 5 distinct Japanese Oni is now live. Link in the description, or check it out at dmsguild.com. And a huge thank you to my patrons for making this video a reality. I was a little surprised that the majority of you wanted more Demon Slayer considering what else was on the table for March, but this was a heck of a lot of fun.
And like we said, this was likely the only time we'd ever be able to talk about the Jatai, so thanks again.
Since everyone really seemed to love Witch Samurai, which debuted a week or so back, next time I really want to visit some pop cultural samurai that may have been on my list for a while. So sub up, stay notified, come check out the channel front page once in a while, and until next time everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.